You keep asking why it's not working, why it feels like life won't open, why the more you give, the more it slips away. But maybe the door isn't locked. Maybe you're just pushing it the wrong way. You're not behind, you're just being repositioned. You keep thinking you're behind, like something went wrong in your story, like life was supposed to look different by now. You look around and see everyone moving forward. People celebrating weddings, new jobs, traveling the world, and you feel like you're standing still in a room where everyone else is running. And it hurts. Not just because of where they are, but because deep down you wonder, did I miss something? Did I fail somewhere? Did I make a wrong turn that ruined everything? You don't talk about it. But at night, when the world goes quiet, you scroll through old messages, old dreams, old versions of you that used to believe more. And that little voice returns again. You're behind. Look at them. Look at you. But listen carefully. That voice is lying to you. Because time is not a race. And your path is not supposed to look like anyone else's. You're not behind. You're just being moved. Not punished, not forgotten, just redirected. And I know it's hard to trust that when everything feels delayed, when you've tried and nothing seems to open, when every door you knock on either stays closed or leads to more pain. It's hard to believe that there's a reason for the silence. But there is. You see, what you thought was a delay was really a divine detour, meant to protect you from something your eyes couldn't yet see. You wanted that relationship to work, but it would have broken something in you that might never have healed. You wanted that job, but it would have drained your spirit, not fed it. You wanted to be there by now, but you didn't know that there was never your destination in the first place. And so life, gently but firmly, slowed you down. You call it being stuck, but life calls it being saved. You call it falling behind. But Allah, the universe, fate, destiny calls it repositioning. Because some roads look like progress, but they lead to destruction. And some delays feel like pain, but they're really protection in disguise. You don't have the full map yet. You only see what's in front of you. But life sees it all. It sees the people planning to misuse your kindness. It sees the rooms where your soul would have been ignored. It sees the unseen corners of paths you begged to walk, and it gently held you back. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were meant for better. And better takes time. Better isn't rushed. Better needs space to be built, inside you and around you. That's why life slowed down. So you could be remade, not just to receive what you want, but to become the person who won't lose it when it arrives. Because the truth is, you've changed. You're not the same person who started this journey. You've been stretched, humbled, softened, sharpened. You've cried behind doors no one will ever know about. You've grown in ways no milestone can measure. You've had to walk alone when everyone else had someone. And still, here you are, breathing, hoping, trying, healing. That is not falling behind. That is becoming something rare, something only life could shape in private. So please stop comparing your pace to people who weren't called to the same destination. Your soul is on a different timeline. And when what's meant for you finally arrives, you'll understand why the wait was sacred, why the pause was needed, why the silence was actually love in disguise. It won't come with noise. It won't come with applause. It'll come like a sunrise, soft, quiet, undeniable. And when it does, you won't feel behind anymore. You'll feel aligned. And you'll realize You were never late. You were just being prepared. And your path is right on time. You mistake disruption for disaster, but it's actually sacred rearrangement. You keep asking, why did everything fall apart? You replay what went wrong like it's your fault. The friendship that suddenly ended, the love that vanished overnight, the dream that crumbled before it could bloom. It feels like a punishment, like life pulled the rug from beneath your feet, and now you're left standing in a place you never chose. With no answers, no closure, and no idea how to move forward. You whisper, this wasn't supposed to happen. But here's a truth. Your heart may not be ready to hear. It was supposed to happen, just not for the reason you think. Because you think disruption means disaster. But Zen teaches disruption is a form of sacred rearrangement. Life isn't trying to destroy you, it's trying to reroute you. Not because you're broken, but because where you were going was too small for the soul you're becoming. Sometimes life has to shatter your plans so it can protect your purpose. That breakup, it didn't break you. It broke the illusion that love was supposed to cost your peace. That job you didn't get, it didn't reject you. It redirected you away from burnout and towards something you haven't even imagined yet. That person who betrayed you, they didn't ruin your life. They revealed the truth you were too loyal to see. And yes, it's painful. It hurts to lose what you were clinging to with all your heart. But what if that pain is life clearing space for something softer? What if the chaos isn't personal, but perfectly placed? Like a storm sent not to drown you, but to cleanse everything that was silently draining you. Sometimes the ground needs to split beneath you to show you the roots were never deep enough. Sometimes the house must fall because the foundation was made of fear, not faith. And sometimes what looks like the worst thing is actually your soul being freed from everything that kept it small. You keep trying to rebuild the life you lost, but maybe that life wasn't supposed to survive the storm, because the storm isn't just there to break things. It's there to reveal what's unbreakable. You, the real you, the one still breathing, the one still trying, the one still hoping, even if quietly. That version of you, it was never found in comfort. It was born in the chaos you begged to escape. So stop cursing the disruption. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a version of you that couldn't have been born any other way. Not everything that falls apart is a failure. Some things fall apart, so the truth can finally fall into place. Your pain isn't a sign of weakness. It's a voice you keep drowning out. You keep apologizing for your pain. You hide it in silence. You numb it with distractions. You bury it beneath jokes and busyness and fake smiles that fool everyone except yourself. And yet, it lingers. Not because you're weak, not because something is wrong with you, but because pain doesn't disappear just because you pretend it's not there. It waits, quietly, patiently, until you finally stop and listen. Because pain is not a flaw. It's not an interruption to your healing. It is the beginning of your healing. But every time you feel it rise in your chest, you rush to silence it. You open your phone. You check your messages. You scroll past other people's happiness, hoping it will drown your sorrow. You don't want to feel. You just want to function. But pain doesn't want you to function. It wants you to wake up. It's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to talk to you. It's the voice you've been drowning out. The one that says, "Hey, something inside me isn't okay. Please stop ignoring me. Please sit with me. Please let me speak." And maybe that's what scares you. Because if you actually sit with your pain, you're afraid it might consume you. But Zen teaches something different. It says that when you stop running from your pain, when you finally turn around and face it, you realize it's not a monster. It's a messenger, a soft one who's been carrying the truth you were too afraid to face. Maybe your pain is telling you, you loved too deeply and weren't loved back with the same care. Maybe it's telling you, you kept showing up for people who never showed up for you. Maybe it's reminding you, you were strong for too long, and now, even your strength needs a rest. Pain isn't weakness, it's memory. It remembers what you tried to forget. It holds the tears you never cried. It carries the parts of your story you skipped past because they were too heavy. But no matter how fast you run, your pain runs faster. Because it's not chasing you to punish you. It's chasing you to free you. And when you finally sit with it in silence, without judgment, you'll notice something strange. It starts to soften. The screaming becomes a whisper. The pressure becomes presence. The ache becomes awareness. And suddenly, what once felt unbearable becomes the doorway to your peace. You see, pain doesn't want to stay forever. It just wants to be heard. Once it tells its story, it leaves. But the longer you silence it, the louder it will fight to be seen. This is why you break down at night. This is why random songs bring tears you didn't expect. This is why you feel heavy in moments that should feel light. Because your pain is not done talking. And that's okay. Let it speak. Let it say what it's been holding. Let it breathe. You don't have to heal all at once. You just have to stop hiding. Because your pain isn't the enemy. It's the compass. And the moment you listen to it is the moment it finally begins to lead you home. Your need to control was born the moment you were left alone with your fear. You've been called strong your whole life. Responsible. Wise beyond your years. Always the one who has it together. The one others lean on. The one who fixes, who organizes, who plans ahead. But what they don't know is that your strength didn't come from confidence. It came from fear. Not because you were born brave, but because somewhere along the line, life left you alone with a pain too big for your age. Maybe it was the day someone walked away and never came back. Maybe it was the moment the people you trusted stopped showing up when you needed them the most. Maybe it was the first time you realized, if I don't protect myself, no one else will. And so you started controlling everything. Your schedule, your emotions, your surroundings, even people not out of manipulation, but out of desperation, because control felt safer than chaos. It gave you the illusion of protection, of power, of peace. But deep down, you were just scared. Scared of being blindsided again. Scared of losing something that held you together. Scared of being hurt in a way that would take too long to recover from, if you ever did at all. So you became the person who always stayed ahead of the storm. Always overthinking, just in case. Always preparing for disappointment, so it wouldn't sting as much. Always bracing for abandonment before anyone had the chance to leave. But here's the truth you've avoided. Control didn't give you peace, it gave you pressure. It taught you to live on edge, to mistake hypervigilance for wisdom and anxiety for awareness. You started calling it maturity, when really it was just trauma wearing a tie. And Zen, it doesn't shame you for this. Zen looks at your need to control with soft eyes and says, of course you tried to hold it all, you were scared, and no one was there when you needed holding. But you're not that child anymore. You don't need to grip life with clenched fists just to survive. You don't need to plan every possible outcome, or script every conversation in your head, or fix every situation before it breaks. Because the truth is, some things are supposed to fall. Some plans are meant to dissolve. Some people were never yours to save. And the version of you that tries to hold it all together deserves rest too. You've done enough. You've held enough. You've proved yourself enough. Now it's time to unlearn the lie that says, if I stop controlling, everything will fall apart. Because sometimes it's your control that's keeping the blessings out. Sometimes it's your tight grip that's choking the life out of what was meant to bloom naturally. You were not created to carry the entire sky on your shoulders. You were not born to fix what others broke. You were not sent here to anticipate every storm, every betrayal, every disappointment. You were sent here to feel, to heal, to flow, to trust, even when it doesn't make sense. Even when the old fear says, don't relax, something bad will happen. Even then, you must breathe through that voice. Thank it for trying to protect you, and then gently remind it, I'm safe now. I don't need to control everything anymore. The healing begins when you no longer build your peace on the ruins of your fear. Let life breathe again. Let it move without your hands constantly steering it. Because the version of you that lets go is the version of you that will finally feel what peace was always meant to be. Not earned, not forced, not controlled, just allowed. The more you chase, the more you push it away like gripping water with a closed fist. You keep chasing it. That relationship, that reply, that feeling of safety you thought someone else would give you. You run after it with everything you have, your time, your thoughts, your prayers, your energy. You mold yourself. You overextend. You wait by the phone like it's holy. You read between the silences, trying to decode what someone didn't say. And every time you think you've almost got it, it slips through your hands. You tell yourself to try harder, to be more patient, to give more, love more, fix more, adjust more. But the truth is brutal. The more you chase, the more it runs. Not because you're not worthy, but because what you're chasing was never designed to be captured that way. Imagine holding water in your hand. An open palm, it sits peacefully. A clenched fist, it spills out between your fingers. That's what your love looks like right now. That's what your effort has become. A fist trying to hold something that was only meant to stay if you released control. You think the chase proves your loyalty, but really, it reveals your fear. You're not running after them because you love purely. You're running because you're afraid of being left behind. You're afraid that if you stop trying, they'll forget you. But here's the divine truth, Zen whispers. If it's real, you won't have to beg for it to stay. If it's written, you won't need to sacrifice your peace to keep it. And if it's love, it won't require you to lose yourself just to be enough. Sometimes the reason it isn't working is because you're chasing what was only meant to be received. You can't force alignment. You can't manufacture fate. You can't build something real with someone who only loves you when it's convenient. And you can't attract something sacred while you're still chasing what wounds you. Because the chase changes you. It teaches you to ignore your needs. It trains you to accept crumbs. It makes you think love must always feel like a performance. But love, real love, is still. It's soft. It doesn't rush or push or play hide and seek with your worth. And peace, true peace, doesn't run away when you stop trying to impress it. You've chased long enough. You've sacrificed enough of your joy to things that never saw your value. You've watered deserts hoping they would bloom. But now, It's time to walk away from what only survives when you're the one keeping it alive. Let go of the ones who only show up when they feel you pulling back. Let go of the dream that's been draining your soul more than feeding it. Let go of the pressure to prove you're worth being chosen. You don't need to keep chasing love that runs. You don't need to keep proving your heart deserves rest. You just need to be still long enough to remember who you are when you're not begging for someone else to remember you. The truth is, the moment you stop chasing, what's meant for you finally has space to find you. Because real love doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to presence, to peace, to the version of you that no longer reaches out in panic, but simply opens her hand and lets what's aligned arrive. No begging, no chasing, no forcing, just flow, because everything that's yours was never running away. It was waiting for you to stop. Let go of the outcome, and you'll be shocked what flows back. You planned it all. You had the vision, the timeline, the picture in your heart that made you smile at night, because you thought that's where your life was heading. You imagined how it would unfold. The love story, the healing, the moment everything finally made sense. You whispered, "This has to be it." But it wasn't. Not because you didn't try, not because you didn't pray hard enough, but because what you were holding wasn't holding you back with the same strength. You begged for it to work. You made excuses. You held on even as your soul was whispering, "Let go." But you couldn't. You were too invested in the outcome, too emotionally tied to the version of life you built in your head. You thought letting go meant failure, but it didn't. It meant faith. Because what if what you were trying to keep was blocking what was meant to bloom? What if holding on too tightly was suffocating the very thing that needed space to grow? You see, life doesn't always answer the prayer you want. It answers the prayer your soul was whispering underneath your words. Sometimes you asked for love, but what your soul truly needed was freedom. Sometimes you asked for success, but what you really needed was healing, a soft reset, a chance to feel enough again without the need to perform. But that kind of outcome doesn't come to those who grip tight. It comes to those who surrender, not because they gave up, but because they finally trusted that something greater was possible than the version they had in mind. The tree does not force its fruit to ripen. The river doesn't argue with the rocks in its path. And the sun does not ask permission to rise. Everything in nature flows. Until we come along, with our expectations and deadlines and silent desperation, to control what was only ever meant to unfold. So here's the sacred truth. You're not letting go because you're weak. You're letting go because your spirit is wise enough to stop chasing what is only draining you. You're not closing the door because you don't care. You're closing it because you've finally learned that not every open door leads to peace. And when you let go, something strange happens. You begin to breathe again. You start noticing beauty in places you used to rush past. You realize that love was never supposed to be a battlefield. That peace was never meant to feel earned. That sometimes the thing you cried over losing was the thing silently blocking your next chapter. You don't need to know what's coming. You just need to stop trying to force what's not. Because when your hands are no longer full of control, they're finally open to receive. And the most unexpected blessings, they don't knock. They flow. Like an old friend returning when you stopped searching. Like a gentle wave reaching you after you finally stopped swimming upstream. You're not letting go of the outcome because you're giving up. You're letting go because you finally realized Your worth was never tied to what stayed or what worked. You were always enough. You were always becoming. And maybe now, life can finally send what was waiting for you all along. Not what you wanted, but what you never even knew you needed. Stillness isn't emptiness. It's where the universe whispers what you couldn't hear in the noise. You're always doing something, always thinking ahead, always trying to solve, fix, manage, prepare, always searching for the next answer, the next sign, the next move. And when things get quiet, you panic, because silence feels like failure. Stillness feels like emptiness, like something must be wrong. Because everything finally stopped moving. You start asking, why do I feel so still? Why does everything feel so slow? But that stillness is not the enemy. It's the message. Because in Zen, we are taught, stillness is not the absence of life. It's the presence of clarity. The water can't reflect the sky when it's being stirred. And your heart can't hear divine guidance when your thoughts are too loud. That's why everything paused. That's why life removed you from the noise. Not to punish you, but to protect the message you were about to miss. We live in a world that glorifies motion, hustle, efficiency, constant becoming. But there is a quiet becoming happening inside of you that doesn't respond to movement. It only responds to stillness. It's why your heart aches when the room goes quiet. It's why your chest tightens when you finally sit alone. Because that's when the truth surfaces. And it whispers things you've been too distracted to feel. It says, you're tired of pretending you're okay. You're still hurting from what you never spoke about. You don't even know what you want anymore, just that this isn't it. You see, the silence isn't empty. It's full of truth, full of clarity, full of direction that you've been begging for, but couldn't hear over the noise. Stillness is where the universe finally has room to speak. And not just in words, in feelings, in gut instincts, in soft tears that finally rise when you're no longer distracting yourself from what hurts. Stillness is a mirror, and sometimes that's what we're really running from. Because mirrors don't lie. They don't flatter. They don't bend to our ego. They show us what we're carrying, what we've been hiding, and what we've been called to finally face. But here's the grace. The mirror doesn't show you the truth to shame you. It shows you the truth, so you can finally be free. So breathe. You don't need to rush. You don't need to chase clarity like it's out there in someone else's hands. The answers you've been begging the sky to send are already sitting in the silence you keep avoiding. Sit with it. Let the noise settle. Let the waves calm. Because when the water stills, you can finally see the reflection beneath. And that reflection, it's not a stranger. It's you, the real you, the one beneath the performing, the one beneath the fear, the one who's been waiting for you to come home. You were never meant to outrun your soul. You were meant to sit beside it, in the quiet, and let it speak. And when you finally do, you'll realize something that will stay with you forever. Stillness isn't emptiness. It's where the universe speaks when nothing else can. The door you keep knocking on is already unlocked, but you're pushing it the wrong way. You keep asking why nothing is opening, why that relationship didn't work, why that dream didn't bloom, why every door you knock on seems to echo back silence instead of progress. You've been praying, pushing, begging, trying everything you know. But no matter how hard you try, it won't open. And now you're tired. Not just in your body, but in your soul. Because this wasn't supposed to be this hard, right? You did what they said. You believed. You showed up. You knocked. And still, nothing. But what if the door you've been knocking on was never locked at all? What if you're not being ignored, not being denied, not being forgotten? What if you're just pushing the wrong way? Because some doors in life don't open outward. They open inward, and that changes everything. You were taught that force gets results, that effort earns love, that pushing equals progress. But some doors are not impressed by pressure. They're waiting for presence. Some breakthroughs won't come through hustle. They'll come through surrender. Some answers don't show up in the noise. They appear when you stop knocking and finally start listening. You see, what if the reason it won't open is because it's not something you walk through with your feet? It's something you unlock with your soul. Maybe the love you're seeking can't enter because you're still locked in bitterness from the last heartbreak. Maybe the clarity you're chasing is behind a door you closed when you stopped trusting your intuition. Maybe the life you want isn't denied. It's just waiting for you to let go of the version of yourself that's trying to earn everything through exhaustion. Because that's the version of you that was raised in fear. The one who thinks peace has to be paid for. The one who thinks silence is rejection. The one who keeps pushing every door, while the key was always already inside. Breathe. Stop pounding on doors that don't open. Stop chasing answers that stay just out of reach. Stop demanding life to move when maybe it already has, and you're just facing the wrong direction. You don't need to push anymore. You don't need to fight for love that was always meant to be still. You don't need to force open doors that are unlocked, but only respond to softness. Start with you. Because the moment you come home to yourself, the moment you say, "I trust what's for me will not need to be wrestled into existence," that's the moment the doors open. Not because you did more, but because you finally stopped trying to open them with someone else's key. Stillness is the key. Surrender is the handle. Peace is the entry. And trust is the doorway. You are not being denied. You are being invited inward, to the version of you who doesn't chase or beg or perform, to the version of you who doesn't knock in fear, but opens in faith. And when you finally realize that, you won't need to knock anymore, because you'll understand something sacred. The door was never closed. It was just waiting for you to stop pushing and walk through it with open hands. So maybe now, you don't need to chase so hard. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to keep knocking on doors that were never yours to force open. Maybe now, you can rest. Maybe now, you can breathe again without pressure in your chest. Because life was never ignoring you. It was just waiting for you to stop, so it could finally speak. And when you're no longer gripping what's breaking, your hands finally open wide enough to receive what was always meant to be yours. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're not broken. You're just becoming. And the path you couldn't find when you were chasing will finally appear now that you've let go.